Hello, hello. Thank you so much for checking out this Busy Women Build a Business Summer Break Edition webinar. I actually have some slides that I'm going to use because otherwise I get talking and I'm telling you, I can just go off on a tangent. And if you're watching this, that means you're busy and you do not have time for my tangents, right? So just a quick invite or just a quick, sorry, thank you for checking this out. I wanted to do this because I think we're in like the craziest season personally. Um, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. And my kids, so I'll talk about this in a second about how what this looked like when I first started 9 years ago versus now. But I cannot believe how busy things are with school age children as you kind of round out the school year. So with school winding down and there's so many activities and class trips and sports games to get to like baseball, basketball, track meets. I know we have like recitals and shows that we're seeing of friends kids and that sort of thing. There's just so much going on. And although the idea of a second stream of income and some extra accountability for your wellness goals may sound great, you're probably thinking, when on earth can I actually squeeze another thing in? And if that's you, then you're in the right place because that's what I'm going to talk about in this quick little video that I'm sharing here. So a little bit about me. I have been partnered with the company, the health and wellness company Body, for 9 years. This came after having neglected my health for a really long time, like a really long time, probably a decade. I joined the company for the wellness side of things. I wanted to get back in shape and kind of find myself again in motherhood. And I actually stayed because I fell in love with the community. Like, it was incredible. At the time, I was a full-time realtor and had just turned 30. And I had no idea how much that first month of me learning how to take care of myself again was going to test me. Like, it was crazy. I actually started my own wellness journey with 21 Day Fix on DVD because that's how long it's been. So I put my DVDs in, and everything that could go sideways went sideways that first 21 days. I was T-boned in my car with the kids on the way to skating lessons. Our water main actually froze and broke, so we didn't have water for 3 or 4 days in our house. And it just seemed like, I would, start a workout and somebody would call for real estate, or, my youngest, who was 2 at the time, would have to go potty, or he would be getting into something. It was pure chaos, like pure chaos. And actually, when I started, my partner who I signed up with talked about having these virtual accountability groups, and I didn't even want to join one. I was like, no, I'm not really into like sharing on social media. Um, and I don't know that I want to be like part of a group. Like, that just sounded kind of icky to me. But what I had been doing for years, kind of off and on and half-heartedly, really wasn't working for me. So I agreed that I did need to try something different. And in that way, I was coachable, right? I was like, okay, what I've been doing hasn't been working. So sure, I'll check this thing out, but thinking that it wasn't going to be a very big piece of the puzzle for me. But I ended up falling in love with the group. And I was so inspired because there were so many other busy women in there who were finding ways to get it done, who were, making their health a priority again. I had 2 kids. There were lots of people who had 4 kids, or, my job was busy and maybe they had 2 jobs. And they were just it was so neat to see that I wasn't alone in this, right? That there were other busy women who were finding ways to get back to themselves. So after 1 month, after years of like starting and stopping so many different things, and like I said, really being half-hearted with trying to get results, I got results. Like, I got tangible results that I could see and feel. And I actually finished something, and I felt amazing because for the first time in probably maybe potentially forever, when it came to my wellness, I had actually kept a promise to myself. No matter how ugly it looked some days, like some days I was working out at 9 p.m. because that's when my shift working husband would be home and we'd get the kids to bed, and that's when I had time after a busy day. But I really loved this. I loved this throughout that process because I realized that it wasn't just a quick fix. Like, it wasn't a bandage solution for something that was temporary, right? I realized that in order to get the results, you actually had to put in the work. And it was that kind of drew me in and made me realize that I really wanted this in my life forever. I was like, I love this. If you do the work, you see the results. And for me, that was huge. And I also think that I thought it was going to be a lot more complicated and intrusive to my life than it actually was. I was actually really happily, I don't know, pleasantly surprised to see that, like, hey, this is actually very doable. Like, I don't need these crazy long workouts. I don't need to never have cake again. It just was really great to see that. But even though I was like kind of thinking about my partner who had signed me up had said, like, you love this and you're doing so great. Like, have you ever thought about being a partner yourself? I was like, no. I was thinking there's no way I could ever imagine adding another thing to my plate. I actually remember feeling like I was in that stage where I was like juggling so many balls and I was like, I barely juggling them, you know, and I was thinking if I added one more thing, I was just going to fall over. That's what I was thinking. But even as I kind of thought that, and I went through the group, I remember thinking, this would be kind of cool to have like a community like this myself that I could run myself. This would be cool if, you know, like I could come up with these like daily inspiration posts, or I could, you know, help other women start to feel better. And I think my partner who had signed me up really saw that desire for heart work in me. And like I said, she told me. So it really planted that seed for me. And maybe that's why you're watching this, because maybe that same thing has been said to you because you have been, you know, crushing it and you're showing up. And it just really got me thinking, right? So just to kind of paint a picture for when I started, because I don't know what season of life you're in. And of course, like the season of life I'm in right now is completely different 9 years later, almost a decade later. That's crazy. But it has not slowed down. Like life has maybe gotten busier, if that's even possible. So I just kind of want to paint this picture for you, because if you're like, you know, I'm just too busy, I want to talk about that, I think. Okay. So first of all, there were three main things that I was focusing on when I started. Obviously my real estate career. I shouldn't say there was more than three main things. I was also trying to be a great mom and a great wife and run a house and all that stuff too. But these things are kind of like things that stuck out to me that I want to talk about. So I was on my own wellness journey. I was like full force into real estate and starting my real estate career. I was about 5 years into having started that business. And I also started to take on another role that I wasn't expecting. Okay. So like I said, I started my journey with 21 Day Fix and was really proud of myself. And even though that it looked kind of messy some days and I still had a long ways to go, I was really proud of myself after that first 3 weeks. And you know, I think I still had I wanted to maybe have a goal weight of like losing another 45 pounds. So if you're like, I know where I want to be, I also want you to keep that in mind too, because I think that was also really important when it came to deciding to do this and to sticking with this too, right? So in real estate, I actually worked for a really small brokerage, and I was very much in the thick of things. So I had been doing it for 5 years. So I was, you know, getting referrals and my business was growing pretty quickly, but I did everything myself. So I took my own photos of my listings. I wrote up my listings. If I had an offer come in, I had to write those offers from scratch myself. My schedule was so unpredictable because you just never know if something comes on MLS that day and somebody's looking for this house and it's competitive, like you need to go out and see them, right? So every time something would come up, I would have this panic feeling come up where I'd be like, okay, I see the house. I have to send it to the client. The client says, yes, I want to see that house. Then I'd have to, if my husband was working shift or sleeping from shift work, I would have to like call like my mom, my sister can somebody watch the kids while I go show this house? Then I'd have to, once I got that figured out, then I had to call and see when I could see the house. Then I had to get back to the client. It was just like this call. And it was absolutely crazy trying to find childcare with that. But it was busy. Like it was a busy season, right? Very busy. And my kids were 5 and 2 at the time. So they were still very much like needing care and lots of attention. I also, shortly after starting to take care of myself again and doing that first 21 day group, our oldest son got sick and he was like sick, just continued to be sick. Like it was happening like every month, and he was having these weird symptoms, and none of the doctors could really seem to get to the bottom of this. And we kept having, to be like, okay, we would go to Emerge like multiple times. We'd have all these sleepless nights. And finally we would get referred to other specialists. So then we'd have to go out of town for that. So it would be like long drives, and then there'd be hospital stays and scans and blood work and just so many sleepless nights and missed days of school. So this was kind of happening parallel to everything else that was happening at the same time. So I was just like, wow, could there be, again, picturing that juggling thing, could there be any more balls tossed into the air? Maybe. So you're probably like, you're insane. Why would you have ever started another business during that? But I have to tell you that like really what won me over was that I could feel this tug that I would really love to help other women feel as good as I was feeling. So in spite of all this chaos that was going on, I was feeling the best I had felt in since becoming a mom. And I had really ignored that for like the first 5 years of being a mom. And so I did like my pros and cons list. I sat down with my paper and I was like, what are like the pros to starting this business? What are the cons? And of course I had tons of cons on there. And I had to kind of think about this, like, what about putting myself out there? I'm a professional. I'm hugely introverted, and I had no social media presence. Like I shared my social media with my husband, and we never posted. We were like those people. I like to call us lurkers because we were just kind of there, but never posted anything. And yet, in spite of all these cons, I realized I was willing to give it a try. That I was willing to at least see how this played out, because I thought, even though I had no idea how I was going to do it, I felt like this was something I wanted to do. Like I wanted to help other people see, first of all, that this wasn't as complicated as we thought it was. Like there's so many people that were telling me they were tired, they felt sick, they, had gained weight, and they didn't have energy to keep up with their kids. And I had found this solution, and I was like, it's not super expensive. It's not super crazy, like intense. It's not extreme. It's not temporary. Like people need to know about this. Like if I'm not telling people about this, that's kind of rude. Like I felt like that was kind of like not the nicest thing. So that was what kind of won me over in spite of this big long list of cons of why I thought I couldn't do it. Now, our team is full of busy women, right? We have pharmacy assistants, we have shift workers, we have nurses, teachers, paramedics. I was a realtor, right? I was full-time in real estate, which is crazy because I did end up leaving real estate. That's not like typical, and it was definitely never part of the plan, but that's what ended up happening for me. But there was one thing that all these women from all these different walks of life, ages, sizes, everything, careers, all had in common. They were all busy, right? And I've learned something over the last 9 years, and I learned it actually pretty quickly into seeing all these other busy women just trying to learn how to take care of themselves again and get back to themselves. And that was that busy women know how to get stuff done, right? And whether that's because we don't have a choice or what, we just really learn how to prioritize and get things done that are important. And I knew that I needed to make this a priority. I knew that my wellness needed to be a priority, and that I needed to learn how to take care of myself for life, right? So here's what I did. This is how I did this, and just kind of like learned as I earned. So when I started, I just made it a priority each day to learn a little bit, right? To get a little bit braver, to share a little bit more about what I was doing. And it started to come into my circle of priorities, because again, I was getting really good at being like, what is actually important? What needs to be done right now? How can I figure this out and make the time for it? I started to do a lot of time swaps. So I did this by learning where I was kind of wasting time, where this and for me, like I was a big Pinterest scroller. So I would be looking, on Pinterest, and I would be seeing, getting ideas for things to do with the kids and stuff like that for hours at night. Or I would, just sit down and watch Netflix exhausted on the couch at the end of the night. And I mean, I guess I was vegging out and getting the relaxation from it, but like I wasn't getting any further ahead. I was just kind of staying stuck that way. Really, a lot of the numbing things that I was doing because I was exhausted, I started to swap them out with doing some of these things like learning how to be a little bit better on social media, how to take a better picture, how to share more of what I was going through, that sort of thing. And then I would, because I was driving a lot with real estate, I would actually take my drives and learn on them instead of just listening to the radio, right? I would have a podcast on or a business training. Or while I vacuumed, I would do that. When I sat in open houses where nobody comes in for 2 hours, it's so annoying, but it happens more often than you would think. I would write a post, right? Or on a walk, maybe I'd be out with the kids and be on a walk and I would think of something and I would just quickly voice text myself and be like, oh, remember that, like, this is how you felt, or this was something that you realized with your confidence or your energy or whatever. And then it would be a prompt. And then later on, I could write a post about it or share about that or do an email or whatever. I really also spent a lot of the time where I would like snuggle with my kids while they fell asleep because we're cuddlers. We're cuddlers at bedtime. I built that business while they were just beside me, like falling asleep. So just these times where maybe I would have played Candy Crush or Angry Birds, right? So I just started to swap this time that was happening, where I had been numbing myself with kind of mindless stuff. I started to swap with business building activities. So that was kind of neat to see. For so long, I think, and this kind of hit me the other day because I realized that this was something that was such a bigger picture gift of what has come out of this. But I realized that for so long, I didn't do the things that were like tugging at my heart, things that were like, that actually fired me up and made me feel passionate and creative and that sort of thing, because I told myself I just didn't have time. Right. And it was the same with my health. And I remember having that kind of like click, that aha moment where I was like, hey, I either start making time for my health or I'm going to be paying for that later. Right. Like I really felt that. I really felt that at one point, and I had to kind of get annoyed with myself or sick of myself and my habits to get to that point. But it was awesome when I did, because I realized that this was like the ultimate accountability, this business. And like I wanted to be able to travel and keep up with this busy season of life. Like when I first started, I wanted to just be able to do regular activities, like go to the park and not be exhausted and hide on the bench from my kids, or race them up the stairs and not feel like I just ran a marathon. I wanted to be able to, climb hundreds of steps in Europe and tie my shoes when I'm 60 years old. And I want to avoid lifestyle diseases as best as I can. A lot of things that are, running in my family, and be around for as long as I can, feeling good, not just being like, ugh, another day. And here I go. I feel like garbage and everything sucks. You know, and being a body partner is what has kept me accountable to this, because there's something magical that happens. Like you help one person and all of a sudden it's not just about you anymore. And for me, like I helped myself first, and then I saw that reflect in my marriage, and I saw that then my husband started to help himself, and then I saw that in more patience with my kids. So there's this trickle effect with my family. But then I had, somebody come to me and say, yeah, like I want to start working out again. What, can you help me? And on those days when I didn't want to show up and I didn't feel like it, I had that other person who was like, I'm doing this, like, let's go. And it was, again, ultimate accountability. So the cool thing, and I love this, and I did end up, I'm actually like a history major, but what I did end up doing was getting my certification in fitness and nutrition expert, which was kind of cool, and like group training. Because I fell in love with this whole wellness space. But I learned because of this that we don't have to be any of those things. We're not fitness instructors or program creators or nutritionists. Our job is actually to be people's number one cheerleader and the person that like helps them see what's possible for them, and that also they can be the best version of themselves every single day, even when life gets hard, especially when life gets hard, right? Because I've gone through so many ups and downs over this 9 years, because of that. So if you've been thinking about this, and if the thing stopping you is that you're telling yourself that you just don't have time, I want you to think about this. When are you going to have time? Right? Because now I've seen this for 9 years. I see as nothing is slowing down, right? There's never going to be a better time. There's never going to be a less busy time, because something will always come up. It always does. I was like the best at telling myself that lie about my wellness. I would be like, I'll start Monday, or I'll start after the holiday, and then another holiday would come, or something would just inevitably come up. So I really want you to start thinking about this. Stop letting time be the thing that you don't control, that you let control you, right? That makes you miss out on things that you really want to give a go, like that you really want to try. And if you're feeling the pull, don't let time be the thing that's holding you back. Because I have learned so much over 9 years, but the biggest thing I've learned is that if it's important to you, you will find time for it. You will. That's just what we do, right? Um, and if you can find a reason that this would matter to you and that you this business and being part of this community, whether it's, more accountability to your wellness journey or more income for travel or the extras in life. My gosh, life is so expensive. And maybe you want to take that trip to Disney, or you want to have these big goals, or maybe you just want to help pay for the groceries, right? Or you want opportunities to earn trips. Like, this was such a blessing that I never expected would come out of this business. But if you can figure out why you want to do this, and why it's important to you, you will find time, right? We get really good at figuring out where we need to spend our time, so that we work smarter, not harder. And it's my job as your mentor to show you how to do that, ways that I've learned over the 9 years of doing it the hard way, that how I can do it in a much smarter way. So I hope you think about it that way. And thank you so much for checking this out. If you have any questions, or you're ready to get started, my next mentorship is ready to kick off, as we get into this coming month. And I have 5 spots available. Okay. I'm not taking more than that because I want to make sure that everybody gets the most from my time and attention that they need. But I think it's going to be incredible. And this could be the start of something so amazing for you. All right. Thank you for tuning in. And please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions.